Happy 49th birthday to Angela Kinsey. You know
Angela from The Office.
That is correct. Angela Kinsey. Today would have been Anthony Bourdain's birthday. I guess it still is, but he would have been a year older.
Yep.
Ricky Gervais turns 59 today. Linda Cardellini. So it's Cardellini.
I think it's Cardellini.
Cardellini.
Like tortellini. But...
Cardellini. Right. She turns 45 today. You
Excellent.
might know her from Dead to Me. We were just talking about that not too long ago. Among other things, such as Freaks and Geeks. She was also in Freaks and Geeks with Busy Phillips, who is 41 today as well. Look at that.
So they cast just like Game of Thrones casts based on birthdays.
Right, everybody in the same birthdays. That way, it's easier that way when you're on set.
It's just like we said, one announcement.
Just one birthday cake, one announcement. That's all you need. And then also Dikembe Mutombo's birthday. Happy birthday to all you. Today is June 25th, 2020. This is episode 91 of the Average Nobody's podcast. And it's just two of us today. You might see three of us if you're watching this video version on youtube.com/theaveragenobodies. Don't be fooled. That third person it's not a still photo of Adam. It's actually Michael Fassbender, but I know if you look quickly, you might be fooled.
You can't really tell them apart.
You can't.
They look very similar.
Yes. Ryan, what have you been watching?
So I had a good week.
It's
first,
good.
I gotta, not in general, not in life.
Just in watching stuff?
Just in watching stuff. But I do need to start with Spike Lee's newest movie, which came to Netflix, I believe last week on the 12th, Defy Bloods, which it's a Vietnam War movie, but it's a Vietnam War movie told from the perspective of black soldiers, which you wouldn't think would be like a rare movie just based on like how many Vietnam War movies have been made. But it really is, because like thinking back to like the more popular ones like Apocalypse Now and Platoon, I mean, it's really primarily the story of white soldiers. Mm-hmm. And this one,
war movies in general too. Like largely.
The ones that like
Glory.
Right, like that come to mind. I mean, Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down.
Yeah.
Really any war that's been cinematized, if that's even a word, but made into a movie, it's really more focused on like the white soldiers' story. But Spike Lee did such a fantastic job with this movie. So it's told in two different time frames. So it's told from present day, where so the Bloods were actually, that's what the black soldiers called themselves in the Vietnam War. They're the Bloods. That's kind of how they banded together. So it's told from present day, where 4 of the 5 Bloods that the movie's about go back to Vietnam, and they're actually looking for lost treasure. Mm-hmm. And it also takes place back when they served with the 5th Blood, who passed away in Vietnam, who was killed. So they want to retrieve his body, and then they want to retrieve the treasure that was buried when they were serving there. And it's just it's 5 different movies in one, which could easily be way too confusing or too convoluted, and it just wouldn't make a lot of sense. But with Spike Lee directing, it just flows so perfectly. I mean, it's like a treasure hunt. It's like a father-son reunion, that type of grips thing. It's like a brotherhood thing. It's about Black Lives Matter movement, present day. It's about civil rights movement back when the Vietnam War was happening. I mean, it's all strung together throughout this movie, and it's just fantastic. It's 2.5 hours. I cannot recommend it enough. It's on Netflix, so you can watch it at your leisure. But I can't imagine starting it and not finishing it right away. It's just so good. The soundtrack is fantastic. Mainly Marvin Gaye. Soul Marvin Gaye. Not Let's Get It On Marvin Gaye, obviously, because that wouldn't really fit into the movie. But the soundtrack is fantastic. And the performance of the movie, head and shoulders above, is Delroy Lindo, who I know you know as one of the cops from Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yep.
I mean, he's in a ton of things. He's one of those actors that you see and you're like, I know him. What's he from?
Yeah.
Because he's in so many, and this is his third Spike Lee movie. He was in Crooklyn and he was in Clockers, and he plays, weirdly enough, he's one of the soldiers, but he's a Trump fan.
Okay.
The whole movie he wears a Make America Great Again hat.
Really?
Yeah, and he voted for Trump it's present day, so he voted for Trump in 2016, and it's a cool storyline that Spike Lee kind of strings throughout the movie, like his character, but he is just so fantastic. It's such an emotional performance. You gotta watch it. It's really, really good, and even though like a Vietnam War movie isn't necessarily an original concept, the way that they make it and about these 5 black soldiers is very original. And everyone knocks it out of the park. Have you seen The Wire, like, all the way through, or?
No, I think 2 seasons. Like, I'm in the 2nd season of The Wire.
So you know Lester Freeman, right?
Yes.
That detective? So he's in it, Clark Peters. Have you been introduced to Clay Davis? He's one of, like, the congressmen or the senators in The Wire. So he's also one of the soldiers. And then Chadwick Boseman is one of them. And Delroy Lindo's one of them, and then there's another guy I didn't really recognize. But they're all really, really good. It was just a really good movie. I thought Spike Lee did a great job. I mean, before Black Klansman, my favorite Spike Lee movie was He Got Game. Mm-hmm. I love He Got Game. You know, it's Denzel, like peak Denzel, late 90s. Ray Allen was really good in it. And not, because Do the Right, and it was my favorite movie, so not necessarily the best movie. Like, you have Do the Right Thing, you have those more movies that are more important to society with it, but I just really enjoyed He Got Game. Then Black Klansman comes along, which was unbelievable. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, now that's my favorite movie. And now he follows that up with The Five Bloods, which was just really, really, really good. So can't recommend that enough. That was fantastic. And then I also, The Last Ride, which was the Undertaker documentary on WWE Network, finished up on Sunday. Really great 5-part documentary series. I know I talked about part 4 last week. But The Undertaker officially announced his retirement at the end, which will last, I would say, a couple months. Like, he's one of those guys this is not going to happen.
No.
Like, if he can move, it's like Ric Flair saying he's going to retire.
It's the thing with his character is, like, what do you do when a character is big and, like, his style as The Undertaker, like, what happens when that person retires? He doesn't just, like, do, like, if John Cena retires, he comes in and he does a rah-rah, like, get the crowd going thing. What does The Undertaker do? Does his music play and he walks out 20 minutes and then just walks back and everybody's, like, going crazy? And no, it's always to hype up a match. It's always some young kid who's talking shit or whatever. Someone's talking shit about The Undertaker or asking for a fight, and Undertaker comes out and is like, well, let's go at WrestleMania. Like, that's always what it is.
Yeah, and I also, like John Cena can be John Cena somewhere else in Hollywood in commercials, and The Undertaker,
imagine
like it's like a car insurance commercial. He just like rises from the so like it doesn't translate to other pop culture things. He's The Undertaker and it works in wrestling.
Yeah.
So if he ever needs that crowd pop or needs to be seen, it has to be in wrestling. He's not going to be in movies. No. He's not going to be in TV shows. So the documentary was very well done though. It was really cool seeing that side of him. Just he's one of really those like protected characters that you don't necessarily see the human side of it. So it was really cool. This one focused a lot on his match with AJ Styles, which I thought was fantastic at WrestleMania. It was almost like a short film.
Yeah,
the way they did it.
It was really good.
So that was really cool. That finished up. And then I started watching Iconic Characters, which I don't know if you've heard of this.
I haven't.
So it's on Hulu, 2 seasons, and it's just actors talking about like their most famous roles. So, I mean, they have everyone. Hank Azaria, Seth Rogen, Jack Black.
Who does Hank Azaria talk about? Does he talk about his time with The Simpsons?
It's the only character he talks about, yeah.
Okay, I was going to say.
But it's really cool. So the one I watched today was Nick Cage. And
so what did he... Oh, that's awesome. I got to watch this.
It's 20 minutes of him just... I don't think he breathed in between, like, things. So they start from, like, Raising Arizona,
That's cool.
What was it when
Leaving
Peggy
Las
Sue got
Vegas.
married, or is that one?
Yeah, that's when he's in.
Yep. So he starts like that early, Raising Arizona, Leaving Las Vegas, all the way to Mandy is the last one he talks about.
That's cool.
And it's really cool. And he's out of his mind, but like the thought that goes into like every single thing he does is really insane. He's like, so they told me to do this thing, and I was thinking of this German expressionist guy who used to do this stuff with his head, and that's why and it's mind-blowing. But guess what he said his favorite movie to film was?
I'm going to say Ghost Rider.
Face Off.
Face Off, really? I would
Yeah.
not have guessed that. See, I said Ghost Rider just because I'm a notorious lover of Ghost Rider, even though it's really bad. But
You are.
I would have said, I think genuinely, I would have said Gone in 60 Seconds because of all the car work and everything. But did he say why? Face Off?
He said
not
it just
that Face Off isn't bad. Not that
because-
Face Off is bad.
Right. Well, so in his the way he explained it was he loves the nonverbal acting part of it.
Yeah.
Like the stuff with your eyes and your body. And when he got to play like John Travolta's character and be like super crazy and weird, he's like, one day I hope to do a movie of just that type of character. Oh god. And they showed the scene when he's the priest and like they're singing the gospel and he's just going nuts. But yeah, he said he had like the most fun with that. They did Con Air. He talked a little
Great
bit about
movie.
Con Air, which was really cool. And he said that was his like when he was a kid, he always wanted to be this like tough, like confident machismo type of guy.
Yeah.
So like when he got to play that type of character in Con Air, like that's how he would have visualized it when he was a kid, which was kind of cool looking at it that way.
I'm trying to think. There's not many. He doesn't play many characters. Well, I don't know. Maybe because his National Treasure characters are definitely not tough and machismo. He's just like a smart, crafty guy. I guess you get that in Con Air for sure. Gone in 60 Seconds maybe, but not really. Not really. Vin Diesel is the machismo guy. Every movie he's in, he's the tough guy. But I guess that's true. He's not really a tough guy.
No, he definitely skews more insane than tough.
Definitely.
He just he'll out crazy you. He won't out tough you.
Yeah.
It was very interesting, and they have it's 2 seasons, 20, 25-minute episodes on Hulu. Justine actually told me about it, so definitely would recommend that. It's pretty cool. And then I started, so HBO on Sunday, their new series is called Perry Mason. It's like a famous detective. I don't know if it's a book or a show or a movie or whatever, but Matthew Rhys from The Americans plays Perry Mason. It was really good. It was pretty cool. So the set design and everything is awesome. It's set in the 1930s, and he just plays this private eye who it's a story that's been told before. So he plays a private eye and he gets a case, and it's much more than he thought it was going to be. But it's kind of I liked it. The first episode was pretty good. And then I watched the Harvey Weinstein documentary, unfortunately, which was a super bummer.
What is that on?
That was also on Hulu.
Okay.
It was interesting because it had a lot of his staff from when they started up the Weinstein Company.
Yeah.
And they told his story. He used to just be a promoter in New York. So he would promote a local theater and try to get bands there and movie stars and stuff, and basically just how he was always obsessed with fame and obsessed with power. And they interview all the people who started the Weinstein Company who saw all this stuff happening and just left, because he started with his brother Bob.
Yeah.
And they would go to his brother and be like, your brother's a fucking pig, he's doing all these terrible things, why don't you do something about it? Because the police didn't care, because he eventually got so powerful that them prosecuting him would be more trouble for them, which is so ridiculous,
so backwards.
Yeah. But then they have some of the actresses on, who aren't actresses, but they were starting, and what they just to get an audition or just to do a small show, and the stuff that he would put them through is just so disgusting. And to think that was so commonplace, and I mean, I don't know if it still is, but it was pretty awful. It's kind of tough to get through, but I wanted to watch it just to get some more insight on it.
did they have any of the filmmakers that were making money off of his company at the time? Which is which is very unfortunate because, I'll say what I want about Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino and a lot of guys that were tied to the Weinstein company. It's like they can surely say that they turned they had no idea what was going on, but also there's a lot of evidence to show that it was not a secret that Harvey Weinstein was a shit human being. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure this documentary shows it. But I think it would have been interesting to hear from like that kind of stuff. Like, kind of like holds some like filmmakers' feet to the fire for like doing business with him. And at the time, it was probably the thing you do. You turn your head to it and whatever.
Keep making money and
yeah.
No, they didn't have any of them on it. The thing that bothers me about it, and like I know we've talked about it before, is with people like him. It's like if we hear about it, like me and you,
right.
don't tell me you don't know.
Yeah,
like if we hear about it in North Providence, Rhode Island, you're telling me someone who works with them doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah,
like
right.
like with Bill Cosby and all that stuff. And I remember we used to talk about Louis C.K. when we're like, well, how has stuff not come out about him?
Yeah.
Like we hear the rumblings.
Yeah.
How do you not know when you're there with these people every day?
Hannibal, I will misquote him to death right here, but Hannibal Buress, when he first basically broke publicly the news about Bill Cosby, he's like, yeah, you gotta be kidding me. He's like, everybody knows. Yeah, like everybody knows about Bill Cosby. Like, yeah, he'd been drugging bitches for years. I mean, and of course, that's a misquote, but
it's true.
That's what he was saying. It's like all these people know about it, and it's the system, and that goes along with everything that's going on right now in the world. It's like it's the system that needs to be broken. And people just go along with it, and so it's like people are like, oh, and everybody's getting canceled. It's like, yeah, well, all these people allowed all these terrible fucking things to happen, and like you can be innocent, but you could also be dirty. Like, you could be like, you're not guilty, but you're definitely dirty, and you're definitely involved. So it's too bad when they do documentaries like this. They don't, sure, you tell the story. Yeah, he's a shitty human being, but you should explain also the connections that happen everywhere in that movie industry. Like, it's not just Harvey Weinstein that should be held to blame here. It's all the people that knew about it and let it happen.
Yeah, he's just part of the system.
No matter how powerful he is.
That allows it.
Just like you were saying, it ended up being the fact where the cops wouldn't do anything because it would be more trouble for them. It's like, that's fucking backwards. That's so backwards. So that's
so
shitty.
ridiculous.
How many episodes is it? Is it just one?
Yeah, it's just one hour and 40-minute documentary. So, Adam, what do you have to say about that?
Oh, I love Harvey Weinstein. He's the best.
I figured that.
Adam. It's not.
Oh, jeez, not the time.
Not now, Adam.
God. And then so to finish up what I've been watching, I watched Urban Cowboy. Have you seen that movie?
No.
John Travolta?
No, I've never seen it.
1980.
Okay.
It was pretty enjoyable. It's kind of goes back to the French Connection. So I was scrolling. I think I watched it on Hulu, but the tagline is a city boy or a city guy travels to rural somewhere and rides a mechanical bull and meets an ex-con. It was a super simple tagline, and literally the first 30 seconds of the movie he's leaving his house driving to a farm. There's no setup, he gets right into the movie, and then the whole movie is just John Travolta working on an oil rig in I don't know where, some farmland.
Is this before Grease or after? This is before Grease.
No, I think after Grease, 1980. I think Grease was in the 70s, right?
No, Grease was in 8. So Grease is very tricky because Grease I think was 85. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up.
Okay. So, but it takes place in the 70s.
Oh no, you're right. 78. It takes place. No, Grease takes place in the. It got filmed in 78, but Grease takes place in the 50s.
That's right. Yeah. So after Grease.
Okay, so after Grease. So he's famous at this point.
He's famous at this point, and he plays a guy named Bud. Okay. And he just it basically takes place at a bar. The entire movie takes place at a bar, and he's riding this mechanical bull, and he meets this girl, and literally meets her. They dance, and then he asks her. He's like, "Should we get married?" And then it cuts to the next scene, and they're married. They're at the wedding. They're getting married. It's just very, very quick. No, there's not a lot of plot to it.
Could this movie be parodied as a What We Do in the Shadows Jackie Daytona episode?
Yes, it could.
Okay.
Yes.
I love it.
But it's kind of cool because all the music is like live performances. So you have Bonnie Raitt, Charlie Daniels Band. So the soundtrack's pretty good, and it's all them like playing at this bar that they're at. Okay. All the musicians. But yes, I feel like Jackie Daytona could have been the bartender in any of these scenes with his toothpick, helping the girls volleyball team. But what I really focused on, maybe I'm just a weird guy, but John Travolta kisses so weird. So, because there's a lot of scenes, unfortunately, of him kissing women. And he just stays there, and the girl comes to him, and then instead of, like, moving his, like, head around, he just, like, makes the girls, like, kiss around his lips, and then he'll just, like, move his head with it instead of, like, just a normal kiss. It's so strange, and I couldn't help but fixate on it. And now I need to watch more movies where John Travolta's kissing people to see if this is like a thing that he does.
Well, if you watch him, I'm trying to think, he definitely kisses Sandy in Grease, and I don't specifically remember anything weird about it, but
it's not really like a romantic kiss in Grease. They kind of just like this is like
at the end, but also at the end it's kind of like one of those like dip, like leg goes up kiss. They don't really like show it. It's not like a. Yeah.
He kisses really weird. I don't know what it is. I gotta watch more. I'm gonna have to go through his IMDb and see if I can figure out what movies he kisses in.
Well, there's definitely websites. If there's websites to find out like the exact second that nudity happens in every movie for every actor, there's definitely, if you search John Travolta, you can definitely find kissing scenes.
I just don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't
kissing.
envy you in this research.
Well, I'm gonna report back. That's for sure. Okay. But yeah, so that's what I've been watching this week. How about you?
I've kind of had like a slack week. I started watching Dragon Emperor because we were going to talk about that today, but then my server went to shit. So listen to this. So my server, essentially, where I watch my movies off of, it's a little too hard drive bay, and it has a power supply that plugs into the back of it. It's an external power supply. And the other day, like, Adam texted our group and was like, it's not working. It just, the server's off. And I'm like, sometimes it gets, like, the internet goes down and you have to reset it, and that's all well and good, but it was just off. And so I pressed the button, it went back on. 5 minutes later, it's back down. I ended up finding out that the power supply was getting, like when you pick it up, it would, like, burn my hand hot. Like, so hot. So something was fucked up with the power supply. So I put it on top of a fan to see if I could cool it down, like, while it was working. And I got it working for a little while, but it did, so it like confirmed my suspicions that it was the power supply that kept overheating and shutting down. So I had to order a new one. So next week we'll be doing Dragon Emperor, the other two Mummy movies, Scorpion King and Dragon Emperor. But anyway, so I've been watching a lot of master classes. Let me tell you, I am sucked so deep in master class right now. So I finished the David Lynch one. I think I was talking last week about how I started it. David Lynch, super weird guy, but also, like, very easy to follow in his methodology for being creative and all of that. Like, his movies are super convoluted and, like, super artsy messes, in my opinion. But his masterclass was great, and, like, how to, like, he does a good job explaining how to get the best out of yourself when you're trying to create something original. And it's this very interesting, like, he has a very interesting, like, upbringing and background. Like, film wasn't his first choice. He wanted to be an artist, a painter, a traditional artist, and somehow he got pushed in the direction of making short films, and then eventually Twin Peaks and all these other great works. But that was great. Last week Tony Hawk came out with a masterclass. And let me tell you, I watched the shit out of his almost 3-hour masterclass, and I don't own a skateboard. I have no intentions of riding a skateboard because at almost 31 years old, I will definitely break something. No intentions of riding a skateboard, but I watched a almost 3-hour masterclass on Tony Hawk teaching me how to skateboard with his son and also with another pro skateboarder. I forget her name, but she's pro. She's going to be skating in the Olympics for Finland. But, I mean, it was literally like I was telling a friend about it, and he was like, well, what did he teach you? And I'm like, literally, it was just him breaking down tricks on how to do, like, an ollie, a kickflip, a pop shove it, grind, all this stuff. And I just found it super interesting, mostly because Tony Hawk is just a really cool guy and, like, very easy to listen to. And secondly, because I found out what the formula is. Masterclass, these videos that they make are so well produced that you just can't look away from it. I find myself like super like sucked into them, and so I watched the whole thing. So
even if it's not something you're gonna do technically.
No, I just like, I like getting. I was explaining this to somebody. I like peering into other people's like passions. Like I'm not necessarily gonna skateboard, but I love knowing like the lingo and it's just so like if I ever like, in the world, it's the same thing with like reading. How reading gives you knowledge. Like you find out all these like different like vocabulary words that you wouldn't normally in your normal everyday life. Like you figure out all that stuff, and so like if you hear someone talking about it or if you're reading about it, you kind of understand what they're talking about. So I find that super interesting. The one I'm watching right now that I haven't finished yet is Jimmy Chin. Jimmy Chin's
Free
masterclass. Yeah, he did Free Solo. He did Meru. He's a photographer, but he mostly does climbing photography. So he photographs climbers climbing rock faces. And he goes up in this masterclass and he's teaching you how to... First of all, it's super helpful for me because I do dabble in photography, so that's helpful for me. I'm not a rock climber, but there is some things that you can take from his like logic and how he does certain things and transfer it to like me being on the ground and definitely not rock climbing any time in my entire life. So that it's awesome. It's so good. Other than that, though, I mean, the master classes are like there's so many of them too. So I'm just gonna be like going. There's great cooking ones. There's Gordon Ramsay has one. Who else has one?
See, that one would probably be. I mean, Gordon Ramsay is just fascinating to me.
You would love it. I'll give you my login. You gotta check it out because it's so good. The way masterclass, like in all of them, like when you watch a masterclass video, you're watching a masterclass video. That's how well done it is. It's a very distinct art style and direction of how they like interview. It's straight head on with the person you're interviewing. And then like for the Tony Hawk one, they were using like a super, it might have been an Arri Alexa camera that was able to shoot at a super high frame rate. And so you were able to like slow down the trick super slow motion, so you can like see every movement of his son Riley's like foot as it moved on the skateboard, and his foot and him spinning in the air and all this crazy shit. It's pretty
So is it Oprah's thing still, or is it different?
I don't know.
Because Oprah used to have like a show on her network called Masterclass, which I loved, and it was just one-on-one interviews with different people.
That's a good question. That might have been where it sprung from. I don't know if it still has to do with her anymore. I only know Masterclass, honestly, from... I remember when they first started, they only had a handful of classes, and it was mostly like Aaron Sorkin has one on writing, and a few other like filmmaker ones, and those were being served to me via like Facebook ads. And that's how I found out about it. But I don't know if it is. That does ring a bell, the Oprah thing, but I don't know if it has anything to do with her thing, or maybe she sold it and now it's its own thing.
Yeah, it might be, because I love the ones she used to do are awesome. Like I watched like the Billy Bob Thornton one and Lorne Michaels, but it wasn't on like a specific craft. It was just like more about their life, so maybe it's different. Yeah,
this is more like focused on a craft, and it's also like there's no interviewer. Like you don't hear a question being asked. It's just like for Tony Hawk, he was just like, here's my life, here's how I started skateboarding, here's like the the issues I had, my kind of like path to this moment and all this stuff. There's no like, you don't hear anybody else but the people that are giving the masterclass.
I like that style. Yeah,
it's very cool. It reminds me of did you watch the documentary on the James Bond documentary
yes.
on Hulu? Okay, yeah, we watched that, right? So that style documentary, and I always forget to look up the name, but there's a specific name of the guy who created that style documentary where it's someone looking directly into the camera, and there's somebody else in another room getting a video feed of him looking at the camera, like straight into his eyes. So they're able to shoot straight on to the subject, and the subject is looking straight into like a teleprompter glass and seeing the interviewer, but really what they're looking at is the camera right behind the interviewer, behind the glass. So it gives her like a very intimate like interview style, and this is sort of like what that is. Like they look directly into the camera and they talk directly to you. It's very intimate and very, very cool. So that's it. I mean, I watched a little bit of The Thing, but this video game came out last week, The Last of Us Part 2, that's like been since 2013 in the making. Since the first one came out, and so I've been pretty wrapped up in playing that. So I haven't really watched much. But that's it.
Nice. So you want to transition to movie news?
Yeah, let's do it. Because we're not going to do so just so everybody knows, we're not going to talk about any Brendan Fraser mummy movies today, or mummy movies in general. Because the server was down, so we couldn't watch. But next week we'll pick back up with that. We'll do some movie news, and then we'll move on from there.
Perfect. So, unfortunately, I'm going to start with a little bit of sad news. Director Joel Schumacher passed away within the past week. Known for The Lost Boys, Flatliners, probably most notably, at least to our generation, Batman Forever.
Yeah.
Also did Phone Booth with Colin Farrell. And I wanted to talk a little bit about him because, obviously, he has a very good catalog of movies that he directed. But I always feel like Batman Forever is kind of like unfairly critiqued. And I know it's goofy and silly, especially with, Freeze and the Riddler and all that.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah. So, it is definitely a more cartoonish movie. But I think, people, when Christopher Nolan came out with Batman Begins and then obviously Dark Knight Rises, people just kind of assumed that that's how superhero movies had to be made henceforth.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the route that a lot of these big movie studios have taken. Now it's gritty and serious and, it's not cartoonish anymore. But going back and thinking about Batman Forever, I haven't seen it in a while, but I enjoyed it. I thought, for the time and for how superhero movies were made back then, I thought that he did a really good job with it.
That movie has a great, and so going back to what you said about how when the Chris Nolan Batman movies came out, then everybody thought of here's how you make here's how you make a comic book movie. That's true. But I'm the firm believer on recency bias, where all in the 90s and in the 80s, you had these Batman movies that were very, noir, but very comic booky. And Batman Forever is probably the most caricature of Batman, straight off the page that we've ever gotten, with all those the rogues gallery of villains. There's so many villains in that movie, which I loved. Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face is kind of great, but it's very cartoonish. The suit is very colorful. Same thing with the Riddler. Everything is very over the top. It's not subtle at all. I'm confident in saying that I think that if we had the Chris Nolan Batman movies, and not necessarily Chris Nolan doing them, but that style Batman movie in the place of those Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, what's the one with Clooney? What's the Clooney Batman? Is that Batman and Robin?
I think that's Batman Forever, right?
What is all right? Which one is? I get them all confused. Anyway, those Batman movies we had in the 90s and 80s, the late 80s, early 90s.
No, that's Val Kilmer is Batman Forever.
Okay, yeah, right. Val
Clooney
Kilmer.
is
that that's Batman and Robin?
Batman and Robin, yeah.
Okay, Batman Returns, right? Is that one?
Batman Returns is the one with Tim Burton, I believe.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
With Michael Keaton.
Yes. Okay. Wait, is it?
And Jack Nicholson, yeah.
Okay.
And Christopher Walken. That's the noir one. That one I really like.
So, yeah, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Batman Returns. Right. Okay. So those movies. If those movies instead were the trilogy that we got from Nolan, that style Batman movie, the very serious, the very subtle Batman, I think if Batman Forever comes out in 2000 and when does Batman Forever? Batman Begins come out 2005, 2006. Comes out in 2006. Everybody's like, "Oh man, this is how superhero." You know what I mean? It's always that thing. It always I'll bring it back to what I know, video games. When PlayStation 4 came out in 2014, it came out as a black system. It's a black box. Everybody was souped about it. Yeah, it's the new PlayStation 4, whatever. Then, a couple years later, they have, another model that's white. And everybody's like, oh, man, it should have been white from the beginning. Look at this console. It's so beautiful. It's so clean. It's white, blah, blah, blah. That's what I think that would happen with movies like that. I think that if it was switched, people would be like, oh, man, this just should be it. I mean, it's definitely a product of the time, but I love those. I love that movie. I love Batman Forever. I think outside of, the Dark Knight, I think it might be my favorite. Batman villains, because you can't top the Joker. Because I just love they have in in Batman Forever, you have Mr. Freeze.
Yep.
You have Poison Ivy. You have Bane.
The Riddler.
You have the Riddler. You have Two-Face. And the Two-Face scene at the beginning of the movie, when they have the bank vault hanging above the city, that was fucking awesome. That was really cool. And they have Batman inside the vault, and he ties himself to the batarang, and they shoot out the top. It's fucking cool.
And I think too, like Batman. So Batman and Robin was the last like mainstream Batman movie before Batman Begins.
Yeah.
And that was 1997. Mm-hmm. So now you're going 8 years.
That was a goofy movie. The Batman and Robin was goofy.
Yeah,
it was goofy.
That was goofy. Actually, you know what? I think we might be. Are we mixing?
Are we mixing them? I don't think we are. Right? Isn't that all of them? Hold on.
So Batman Forever has Two-Face.
I'm looking at it right now. So it has Catwoman.
That's who it was.
Oh shit! So wait.
So Batman and Robin has
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze and the Riddler and Poison Ivy.
Oh shit! I got them confused. Well, the bank vault scene is from Batman Forever.
Yeah, those are almost like two. Oh no, yeah. So Batman Forever has Two-Face, Riddler, and then Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy and Bane are in Batman and Robin.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I got those confused. But anyway, still great.
But yeah, I agree. But I just felt like, then you go 8 years between, 10 years from Batman Forever, 8 years from Batman and Robin. Then Batman Begins come out, and it's just like this gritty origin story of Batman. And it's like, all right, this is how it should be done. Which it was great. Obviously, they did a great job, but I just think it's...
Have you ever seen The Lost Boys?
Yes.
I love The Lost Boys.
I did too.
I actually have a... Mark Allison got me a signed Lost Boys comic book from the shop that is featured in the movie in North Carolina.
That's awesome.
Badass. Yeah. Well, it's too bad to hear his passing. Definitely had a few classic. He definitely directed a few classic movies for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's been some voice acting changes, which this always it just kind of like slid under the radar, I guess, for us at least. But the amount of like white actors voicing black animated characters, which like to me that would be like if I'm a creator, that's a given. Like, all right, I created this black animated character. Why would you have a white person voice them?
You know who would be a good person to voice this character and know exactly like who they are and what
how they should speak
and how they should speak? It's definitely a white person. Let's do that.
It's just like doesn't make any sense to me. No. But so two changes that have come about. Jenny Slate, who plays a black character in Big Mouth, will no longer be voicing that character, and Kristen Bell. Central Park, which is a new animated series from the creator of Bob's Burgers.
It's very good. It's a very good show.
I haven't seen that. I love Bob's Burgers. I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's a musical animated show, and she is a very good singing voice, and like obviously she's known from Frozen and all that, right? So she's in Frozen.
Yeah. Yes.
So she does have a good singing voice, but I feel like you could also find somebody that would better match that character, also with a good singing voice. So
correct.
Good. I'm glad.
Agree. And I was so the next one, which I feel like has to change, is the guy who voices Cleveland on Family Guy is also white.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
You know what though? Mike Henry.
If you had told me that it was Seth MacFarlane, I would have believed you.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very white. He's just like a white bald guy. Like, why does he have to voice Cleveland? I don't understand. So I hope, I would assume that one would change as well. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Have you seen New Girl?
Yeah.
Okay, so Desperados is actually a new movie coming to Netflix on July 3rd, so a week from tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And it's teaming up Lamorne Morris and Nassim Pedrad. So
Winston?
Winston and Kate from New Girl. So I couldn't tell if they're together in the movie, but they were like such a like underrated couple like in the later seasons of New Girl.
Yeah.
Which I really like. So I was thinking like what Are there any fictional TV couples, like I'm thinking more comedy in this respect, that like you would want to see again, but in a movie as like different characters, just based off their chemistry?
I would probably want to see Jake and Amy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yep.
As like together, not necessarily, right, you're saying, so not necessarily their characters from the show they're in?
No, so just like those two
together.
Actors, and they're together again, like, in a lot of scenes.
I think oh man, what is Amy's actual name? Do you know her?
Oh,
I'll look it up.
I thought I knew it.
Anyway, so Andy Samberg and I think her name, it's Melissa something.
Melissa with an L. Fumero.
There you go. So I would like to see them because I think they have great like comedic timing together. I think that would be funny. I've always said that God damn it, I'm gonna use this character name. Al Bundy, what is his name?
Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill and Katie Seagal need to come back and do a show together. Oh my God. I mean, Married with Children definitely has a lot of problems in 2020. Like, a lot of problems in 2020. But that show I grew up on, and I found that their on-screen chemistry, as far as, like, even as husband and wife, and also, like, comedically, is second to none as far as sitcoms go. They are so good together, and I would love to see them in some team up somewhere. Like, that would be so good. They did it in Modern Family for a hot minute, right? Didn't they bring back Christina Applegate and all those characters? I
think so. And like one of the like mid seasons.
Yeah.
I forgot which one, but yeah.
So I think that's
would be
a good
awesome. One. That was a great show.
I'm trying to think of some other ones that would be good together, like from shows I watch.
Recently, from one of the ones that I know, like we both really like, I think Chris Pratt and Aubrey.
Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec. Yeah,
they had such a weird, because Chris Pratt can play like the superhero Guardians of the Galaxy thing, but he can also play like that dumb. So he can play anything in between. And their relationship was just so weird. I would love to see them in like some type of indie comedy together.
Did you ever see? There's a outtake from Parks and Rec that it's on YouTube. You've definitely seen it because you love watching outtakes. Yes. Where he's sitting there and I forget what scene it is, but they're talking. Andy and Aubrey are talking. Andy and what's her name? Janet Snakehole. What's her name in the actual Parks and Rec? What's her name in Parks and Rec? Not Aubrey. Shit, why can't I think of her name? Janet Snakehole. Why can't I think of her real name? God damn it. I've watched the show 100 times.
I know.
That's going to kill me.
This is going to bother me.
All right, you look it up. But anyway, so they're standing there, and Andy's talking to this guy, and he's like, hey, he's a doctor, I think, when he goes to the doctor's.
When he's wiping?
Yeah, he goes, sometimes I wipe, and I wipe, and I wipe, still poop. Still poop. It's like there's a brown marker down there.
April.
April. And thank you. And she's just dying. I thought, they would be great together. That is really good. An obvious one for us would be Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul.
Yes,
I think. And they haven't really done it. I mean, they have a tequila now together.
They do.
They haven't done anything else though. Right?
I love their Instagram stuff. No, not really. But yeah, I feel like there's so many that could be good. And I mean, you obviously, and I'm thinking like more secondary because you don't want, I think it'd be tough. So like with Winston and Kate, like they weren't really the main couple in New Girl. So like seeing them together again, you wouldn't be like, oh, I would think New Girl, but wouldn't overtake what's happening in the movie.
You're right. If you saw Jesse and Walt back together, it would be Jesse and Walt. It wouldn't even be a question. But Al Bundy, Ed O'Neill, and Kay Seagal might be
that would be a good one.
I mean, they definitely they were the main characters in that show,
but yeah, I think enough time has passed where they can. I was trying to think of like any other ones, even like mid 90s or like early 2000s. I mean, there's so many good.
Eric Matthews and Mr. Feeney.
Oh God, imagine.
Oh, he's so old. Please.
He's
so old. He's still alive though, still kicking.
Still kicking. He was going to like all the Comic Cons and stuff.
Yeah, he was.
When it was still happening.
Was he at the one I was at? I don't think he was, but Topanga was, and Eric and Corey were there at the one I was at. I don't think he was there.
Makes me happy that they're all like still.
They request their booths all next to each other. It's very nice.
It's awesome.
It's very nice. And then like they like you set up, like, when we go and set up those type of shows where they have just, like, it's signings. So it's a whole row of people, like, with tables. And you're supposed to, as per the setup, everybody has an 8-foot table and 2 chairs, and then there's dividers that divide every little booth. So you're not like, so I'm not like Weird Al Yankovic and looking at Corey Matthews to my right. Ben Savage, right? Ben Savage?
Yeah.
You know, like, if you want to have it blocked off, you can have it blocked off. But you see all the people that are friends, and they always go to Comic-Cons together, that will come in the next day, and all the bars will be, like, taken down in between because they just want to be able to, like, go back and forth in between everybody's booths. Yeah, it's great. And, like, a lot of times, like, they'll all take, like, if someone's, like, a really big fan or whatever, they'll, like, run over and take pictures all together with the fan and stuff, which is cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Big time tangent. But I think that's good. I think that's funny. So Desperados is a movie coming out on Netflix? Okay.
Yep. And again, I don't know. I know they're both in it. It's actually a pretty good cast. So it's Nassim Pedrad, it's Lamorne Morris, Stephen Amell, Robbie Amell, rather. Is that Stephen Amell's brother?
Arrow.
Stephen Amell's Arrow. Yeah. Robbie Amell is, I guess, his brother? Huh. I thought it was Stephen Amell. Well, maybe he's a good actor, too. Heather Graham, who I'm a big fan of.
Love
yeah,
Heather
that's
Graham.
it. Oh, I love Heather Graham. She's the best. Ageless. So, yeah, that's coming out on July 3rd. And then, last bit of movie news, which I saw on Twitter this week, a Twister reboot is in the works, which I am a huge fan, obviously. We both are, of the late, great fan of the podcast, Bill Paxton. And Twister was a fantastic movie, and also one of my favorite rides to go on, or, like, rather not go on, experience at Universal Studios. Yeah. It was super cool, like, they'd have the cow, like, on the string, like, flying around.
Do you think that they'll have Helen Hunt in it?
I have to imagine she would be in it, you know, kind of in, like, a wise, like, sage role. Yeah. You know?
Right. So if I see here, so Joseph, how do you say his last name? Kosinski?
I think it's Kosinski. Yeah.
Kosinski. He's directing Top Gun Maverick, and right now he's attached to direct this reboot.
Uh-huh.
I think, I'm going to be honest, I think this reboot has a lot to do with how well Top Gun Maverick does, and I think Top Gun Maverick does really well. And with Tom Cruise being in Top Gun Maverick, I imagine they try and bring back Helen Hunt for this Twister reboot. I mean, it isn't a sequel like Top Gun Maverick is, so who knows, but maybe they could just throw her character in there for fun. I don't know.
Right. I mean, you can still have her in as, you know, like, people the thing with Twister is it's like a cool enough concept where I think you're going to get, like, people our age and older who will go see it because it'll, you know, as long as it looks good, because it's going to be a cool, like, adventure movie. But then you can get the newer audience, you know, if the special effects and stuff are good enough that you don't need Helen Hunt, but, like, it would be a pop for us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think you have to have her in. And I think the only reason why it wouldn't happen is if she says no for whatever reason. These are my, like, you have to make these movies under these rules. These three things. Number one, you need a villain like Carrie Ells. You need someone that's opposite your, like, they need to be chasing these tornadoes. I don't want to see people inside of rooms with computers, because there is that, but I don't want that. I want to see someone they have to shove something into the tornado, which is insane and totally ridiculous, but they have to shove something in the tornado to get the readings, all that shit. I wouldn't hate it if it was a period piece from the time that the original Twister was, to keep, like, the technology real, like, low-key. So number one is need to have a bad guy. Number two, you need to be shoving things into the tornado. Number three, I need to be seeing a cow flying. I need it. That's non-negotiable right there. So Joseph Kosinski, it's non-negotiable. Those are my orders. Also, you need to somehow slip in either a photo or a tribute to both Bill Paxton and Philip Seymour Hoffman. I need both.
100%. I need them, like, maybe in the windshield of the car while they're driving somewhere.
Something.
Like, you know, them.
Yeah. I need like a DVD of, like, Along Came Polly with him, like, doing, like, the Rain Man shot, and then I also need a picture from the Titanic when Bill Paxton discovered the sunken Titanic.
100%.
That's what I need.
So now, who are your... Say you're the casting director here.
Okay. I love this.
Take into account, at the time Twister was made, Bill Paxton was 39.
Okay.
Helen Hunt was 33.
Okay.
Somewhere in that age group. So we don't want to go too young. Yeah. But who would you try to get for the upcoming Twisters? Someone established, obviously, but...
Right. That's a very good question. My immediate reaction is to jump to like one of the new like young hot Hollywood stars, but I don't think we can do that because 39 is not young and hot. I mean, Bill Paxton was hot as white fire, but he was a little bit on the older side. Let me think.
See, my mind immediately jumps to Tom Hardy.
Okay, I like Tom Hardy
because he's not really like a huge mainstream like he is to us, but like all his movies are kind of his biggest movie was probably when he played Bane. Or Mad Max, I guess, too, and Venom. But, I mean, I still think he could portray that type of...
I think that's true. I think he could definitely portray that type of character.
Just like, that thrill seeker. I don't know if he would want to go that mainstream, but he did it in Venom, so...
This guy might be a little bit older, but I gotta tell you, I would not hate to see Hugh Jackman in Twister.
Not that much. He's 51. I mean, but the thing is, Hugh Jackman, like, he's like 25 and then he's 80.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah.
So I think him being 51, like, I can't tell the difference between him now and.
I feel like if you put Ryan Reynolds in it, that's too much humor. You can't have too much humor in that role. I'm trying to look at my movies on the shelf, see what I could.
I'm trying to think of who like the Helen Hunt would be.
I mean, it might be. Man.
You know who I really like, and I don't want to butcher her or get her first name wrong. She's the third Olsen, Elizabeth Olsen. I really like her.
Oh, she would be great. She would be really good.
And I just I always loved her in Godzilla. I thought she played such a great role.
Yeah, I like she's great in all the Avenger movies and Scarlet Witch. Who could be, man? I mean, Chris Pratt wouldn't be bad.
Chris Pratt would be, especially if they were going to go like the big budget route.
Yeah, Chris Pratt wouldn't be bad for that role. I gotta be honest.
Because he can do it without, I think, all like the Ryan Reynolds would be, like you said, would be too much humor.
Yeah. Well, look at him in Jurassic Park. He's like,
it's perfect.
I always said that first Jurassic World, the first one with Chris Pratt, was just a very expensive screen test for Chris Pratt as Indiana Jones. I mean, he dresses just like Indiana Jones in the movie, and is just like the same character. Yeah, I wouldn't hate Chris Pratt. I gotta be honest. But you know what I do love? I love when they take a character that you really would not expect and put him in that role. Like, who would be someone that like would get like super buff or like super light? You know what I mean? Like that you would not expect, like a Michael Cera, like
or Jonah Hill or somebody.
Yeah, right. Jonah Hill.
But yeah, I feel like that's what happened with Bill Paxton. Like, there definitely were more in demand, like, mainstream action stars in the mid 90s than Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton did have a weird run though at the end of the 90s.
He did.
He wasn't. There's not like his role in Aliens in the 80s, or right? Was Aliens in the 80s?
Yes.
So that wasn't a great reel for him because it wasn't a great role for him. His character in Aliens, it wasn't really great. He's not going to get many roles from that, but he is like famous for being in that movie. But the late 90s, Twister and then Titanic, kind of a weird time for Bill Paxton, and obviously a bunch of other movies. He was red hot.
What did he have? Apollo 13.
Right. Yeah, he had
True Lies was in '94, but I love that movie. He was the bad guy in True Lies. Mighty Joe Young. Who could forget that?
Mighty Joe Young. Oh,
that actually wasn't a bad movie. I actually like that movie.
Oh man.
Charlize Theron. That's when she first started. Regina King, Queen. She's in Mighty Joe Young.
Regina King was in Mighty Joe Young.
Was in Mighty Joe Young. Yep.
You know what? I wouldn't hate Regina King as the Helen Hunt character.
I wouldn't either.
I would not hate that. Would not hate her as the Helen Hunt character. Hey, who's gonna play? You know who Helen Hunt could be? Helen Hunt could be the aunt, the one they go and stay at her house, right?
Hey.
Right? There we go.
I think we should write the script.
Casting director. I'm going to write it right now. Big twister. Cows flying. Exterior, scene 1.
So we
Bill
have the
Paxton
script here.
character.
It just says cows flying.
Bill Paxton character. We need to get Dorothy into the tornado. Helen Hunt's character. What are you talking about? I'm going to strap this thing to the back of my truck, and it's not going to work the first time, but then we're just going to drive it in, and it's going to go flying. Spoiler alert for Twister.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's insane.
So now, if you had to guess how much money Twister made.
When did it come out again? 97?
96.
96. Twister made $335 million.
Pretty close. Well,
really?
Yeah.
Worldwide?
Close, like, relative to zero.
Okay.
$494
Okay, not too
so
far.
But close, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
not... It's not like you said, like, 50 million. But, yeah.
But I
pretty...
think-
I mean, that's a lot.
I feel like when you get close to $500 million in the 90s, I feel like that's a win for your movie. Because
Yes.
movies cost less, and the whole, like... I mean, when Disney makes a Marvel movie, if it doesn't hit... Or a Star Wars movie, it doesn't hit $1 billion, that's a failure. But I feel like...
Which is insane.
In the 90s, $500 million is pretty good.
Yeah. And I really like that. I mean, I like everything Bill Paxton does, but... Yeah, and the budget was $92 million.
$92 million? That's a really
Yeah.
good return on investment. I'm surprised, honestly, they didn't do a sequel.
I am too.
Maybe that just wasn't the mindset. I know, actually, fuck that. Everybody's just looking to make money. Of course it was the mindset.
Yeah,
Everybody
they
wants
probably
to
couldn't
make
have got him.
sequels. Yeah.
Stellar cast, too.
Very, very good.
Yeah. And that's all I got for movie news, so...
That's cool. I'm excited for that. I honestly, like, I will never... There's very few movies that I would get very angry at, like, if someone wanted to reboot it or remake it or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like, reboot, remake, whatever. It doesn't make a difference to me. Like, Twister's one of those. It's never going to hurt the original Twister. I'm always in that mindset. It's never going to hurt my Twister. I honestly think I have a VHS copy of it in the other room. VHS of Twister. I can always watch Bill Paxton on that. Once they start, like, deleting them, which they would never will, then that would be a problem. But there's not many movies that they could do that with. Like, I think Back to the Future is a near perfect movie.
Yeah, that would be... that. I think that's a great example of one that, if they redid it, I'd be like, you made two sequels.
The thing with Twister is it's not groundbreaking stuff. It's a natural disaster movie. Like, this stuff happens. This is stuff that movies been made about since the beginning of time. You know, like floods and all this shit. Like,
Right.
Twisters, this is just like the natural progression of it. You have the volcano movies. You have all that shit. With Back to the Future was a very original idea. With time travel wasn't original, but the Back to the Future idea was a very original idea. With the DeLorean, everything hit so perfectly. They filmed, we talked about this before, they filmed almost the entire movie with someone else as Marty McFly, Eric Stoltz. And then they were like, hey, Zemeckis was like, hey, Spielberg, this isn't working. He's like, oh, well, just get the person you need and we'll film it all again. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, no other time in history would that ever work with anybody else other than Spielberg at that time. So it's just like a perfect thing. I don't think it really needs to... Do I think it will be remade? Yes. Does it need to be? Probably not. I won't be that angry. I will go see it. And because they'll definitely, like, change. Like, it won't be a DeLorean. It'll be something else. It'll be, they'll try and make it original, but it's not. But that's fine.
But yeah, those type of movies where, like, they create their own universe are the ones that I feel like more protective of than anything else. Like, Twister was...
Yeah, it's
just
an
a
action.
normal-
And this is going to sound like I'm degrading it, but I'm not. It's a throwaway action movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not an important piece of art. It's, some people it might be, but it's a throwaway action movie. If they want to remake it, just like with Top Gun, like, I don't care that they're making this sequel of it. Like, it's not going to hurt the original. I mean, Tom Cruise is a fucking stud. Like,
He really is.
He's just a stud, and he can't stop making action movies. And he can't stop flying his own. How is he not dead? Like, that's a person that I wonder how is he not dead. Like, people like him, he's so well trained in everything he does, and he does all his own helicopter stunts, which is fucking... Listen to the sentence I just said. A Hollywood actor does his own helicopter stunts. He flies his own helicopter in his stunts. And then you have people like Harrison Ford, who has his pilot's license, who refuses to land a plane other than crash land it on a golf course. That's the only way. He must live on like a gigantic golf course, a private golf course that he just like has like every like 600 feet there's a crashed airplane. He's like, oh yeah, that one was 2 months ago. That one was last night. That one's still on fire. That was this morning. He's insane.
Please stop flying.
Please stop. For everybody's sake, Harrison Ford, please stop. But the man has 1 million lives. How is he not dead?
He's not going to die in a helicopter crash. It's not possible.
No, he won't. No, he'll like. I don't even know how. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll just like. Maybe like one day we'll stop hearing about Harrison Ford, and then that'll be it.
And
there'll be no funeral. There'll be no announcement. They'll just be like, he's gone. Well, he took off this morning in his plane, and we haven't heard from him. So
it'll be like Amelia Earhart.
There'll be no search though. It'll just be like, all right,
no,
we understand. No. We know what happened.
We've been waiting for this for 25 years.
All right, man. Well, I think that's it for today. We got nothing else to talk about, but next week we'll be back with The Mummy and more news and more stuff we watched. Hopefully, I'll watch more than just Tony Hawk teaching me how to skateboard. Who knows? By next week, maybe I'll have a skateboard and I'll be skateboarding.
I think you should give us like a skateboarding tutorial next week.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't think that'll go well. I'm gonna be down over here, and I'm not gonna be able to shut off the cameras, and I'll be down on the floor with a broken pelvis.
Call 911.
Please, someone call 911. Wendy's downstairs working with her headphones on. She definitely won't hear me.
It's true. It'll be over.
That's it. It'll be over. It's over.
It's over, baby.
It's over, baby. All right. Talk to you next week.
91 in the books.
91. June 25th. I remember.